What I need to be careful of here is not starting too many wars, because you can quite easily squander your troop count there and it will take forever for them to recover. So hopefully just waiting will give us a little bit of opportunity to improve our relations with other lords under our control, just because obviously it takes a while for them to get used to a new Lord Paramount. And that will increase our troop count. The longer we rule over that territory, the more troops we'll get, the more people will trust us. Saying that, we do have nearly 30,000 at our disposal already, but essentially what is needed now is for me to reach a pinnacle of military strength with the territories that I have at my disposal. Possibly try and cause some instability in the Reach, or at least wait for it to happen, so that their troop counts will be diminished. And then I think that should balance the scales in my favour, so that we will be able to, with a little bit of careful planning, take the Stormlands back from the Reach. So that's the plan now. The plan is still to take the Stormlands. It's complicated ever so slightly, but hopefully it's a little more... 2 seconds. I guess I'll give this guy patronage rather than annoy my entire family. But hopefully it's still going to happen more or less in the way I managed, in the way I envisaged, and hopefully you'll find it still quite interesting, seeing as I have this rather large territory at my disposal now, and I'm finally a major player in the game. Not that I never was, or ever wasn't, in fact, but it helps to have a Lord Paramountcy to your name. Now, someone's pinched off me, and I've had this before, where you either choose piety and don't get gold, or lose piety and get the gold. But what I do, because I'm clever, is that I imprison him to get the piety, and then I will ransom him back to himself. Giving me 25 gold, which means that I get both gold and piety. Lovely. And nobody's annoyed or anything, it just works seamlessly. That's governance right there. This is why they pay me the big bucks. Stannis, still irritatingly my heir, probably gonna have to deal with that at some point. So obviously Sunspear is now our capital, I suppose. Dragonstone will always hold a special place in our hearts, and we'll hold on to Dragonstone. But Spear Tower of Sunspear is our main castle now, so we'll work to get that upgraded and increase our troop count as much as we can. Also, if you'll note, in the top right, it says I hold 2 out of 4 lordships, or my demesne is at 2 out of 4 lordships, which means that I have capacity for 2 more. Now, I think that is because I recently became a Lord Paramount, so that means I'm entitled to more territory if... I think my diplomacy is at a certain level. I think diplomacy determines how many territories you can hold. And Stannis is a good all-rounder, really. But I think time has come to start a war and claim Sharp Point back. It's a small gain, but we have some allies in the Stormlands who are happy to assist us. And so it's time to raise the fleet and the army, all 27,000 men, and see what can be done. Now, there are 4,000 men on Sharp Point currently, which is interesting because I don't remember ever getting that many troops from Sharp Point. But luckily there are as many men on Dragonstone. But first, of course, we have the delightful procedure of manoeuvring our navies, because despite this massive territorial acquisition, we are still very much a coastal force. You'll notice that all of the troops there require ships. Now, what it looks like is that I'm going to have to group together this whole navy as well, because they're all sort of little splintered groups of small numbers of ships. So, probably going to skip through that debacle. Look at that, over 10,000 men. That's the first time I've ever had over 10,000 men, and luckily there's another over 10,000 men to make up the other half of the army. Now, the smart thing to do, presumably, would be to group all of our troops in the same point on the coast so that they can all embark together. Okay. Shireen of Adadel has obliged, and she's joining us in our war. Now, there is a law that's been passed, I think it's autonomous vassals or something like that was passed by the Crown, which essentially means that we can't select who to appoint to certain army positions anymore. It's very frustrating, because it usually ends up there being no other leaders, unless, of course, you have like armies from certain territories and combine them. But even then, you can't really reassign or swap. So it's a little testing at times, but the main thing is that we have a massive fuck-off army now, and we have the capacity to use it to devastating effect. Now, the Iron Islanders are heading to Stonedance. I suspect that they'll just lay siege to that province, seeing as they're out of range of pretty much everything else. Unless they feel like a march into Dawn, which should only take them 2 or so years. No, they are in fact besieging Stonedance. Now, I do have the advantage of numbers with my men, but the problem is that if I land via sea, I will suffer a fairly large territory combat penalty, which will mean that I probably will lose that despite my slight numerical advantage. So we're going to hold off that attack for the time being. There's no particular rush, and we have about 20,000 men waiting in the wings, so we might as well let them catch up as well. Now there's a good 10,000 men on the Iron Islands, presumably waiting for ships to carry them to Dawn or Sharp Point. I'm not sure what angle they're going to go at this from. Can't help but notice that the army of Faring Cross is making its way towards Stonedance for a somewhat ill-advised attack. Ah, perhaps not. No. They're more content to block them off, I suppose. I'm not sure how much of a blockade I'd consider that, to be honest. I'd probably relish the opportunity if I were them. I have about 5,300 men who I'm sending on to Sharp Point now, because frankly it doesn't matter so much to me if they continue to besiege Stonedance, but I'm going to try and take Sharp Point, and hopefully that will be rather significant in winning the war to claim Sharp Point. Now I've got some troops over here that I don't appear to be doing much with. I'll have a think and get back to those guys, because there's quite a large number of troops there. There is a large Iron Islander fleet that's circling my coastline. I don't know if it's going to send men up to Sharp Point, or if it's going to attempt to attack me there. But we have... I should point out that you can get 100 men onto each ship, unless I can't remember if I've mentioned that before. So we have 2,840 men there and 29 ships. That's a sign from the gods that they need to go and reinforce my men there. Because with 76 ships there is, and another 31 there is a potential for there being about 10,000 men on those ships. I just wouldn't know. Although there are 10,000 men on that island, which is basically the entirety of their army last time I saw, so chances are that there's probably not going to be 10,000 men waiting for me there, which is excellent. But nonetheless, I think it would be foolish of me to have this massive Dornish army and not use it at all. And indeed, it would make it seem somewhat futile having waited until I got Dawn to actually go to war with the Iron Islands. But I suppose this way I have the sort of insurance policy that is the other 20,000 men. So it looks as though they might be landing some troops soon, or not. They might just go back into the ocean. I don't know what their thinking is here, to be honest. They seem to be heading back to the... I don't know if they're stuck, actually. No, I think they're probably linking up with the other ships now, because that army was stuck there on that island because they didn't have enough ships to transport it, and they didn't have the intelligence to split it up and ship it in like, groups. so they're probably going back to the Iron Islands to pick up the rest of their troops right now. But there we go, we have 8,200 men here now. That's probably enough to defeat the Iron Islanders in Stonedance, if needs be. Now, they did get reinforced by some 700 men or so, I would say, judging by the fact that their number are almost 5,000 now. I'm guessing that that's what those ships were there for, and maybe that's why they're heading back. I didn't notice that at first because it was such a small number, but there you go. But this is a good dry run, you know. It's very handy to know what the best manner in which to maneuver your troops and how long it takes to get everything sorted is. It's good to know these things in case you end up fighting a large-scale war with the Reach, for example. I don't know why I mentioned the Reach, just pluck that out of the air. Alright, so we've moved our men south to Stonedance to take on the Iron Islanders, and as I suspected, the army from Farring Cross will be reinforcing us in a short while. Although it looks as though the numbers advantage and also the fact that I have a commander and they don't, in fact 2 commanders now that the reinforcements have arrived, has seen that they were pretty royally crushed. Yeah, so we killed about 3 for every 1 we lost, which is good. Now they're going to head into Wendwater and we're just going to follow them there because there's no point in letting them sort of stick around. We can just take care of them. That will mean that Stonedance does not get captured, which would be a pain to just recapture it really. And then now they have got their main army now, I think, heading towards us, because those 10,000 men have disappeared, and there's 136 ships there. So that would leave us outnumbered on the land with the number of men we have there. So we probably need to get some reinforcements to them soon, but in the meantime, obviously we're going to have these guys just wiping out the remainders of the Iron Islanders' force. That's halved their numbers, and so another successful fight should take care of them.